Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, partnering with donors from all walks of life to improve southeastern Virginia through grants, scholarships, and leadership initiatives. Learn more at hamptonroadscf.org.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Hamley. I have a question for all of you who have graduated from a university, college, or community college. When was the last time you gave back to your institution? Are you a regular supporter? If you are an HBCU grad, congrats. HBCU grads give back at a higher rate overall than supporters of predominantly white institutions. But we can do more. Up next on Another View, African American philanthropic support of historically Black colleges and universities and why it matters. Stay tuned. Another View will be right back after this news from NPR and WHRO News.
Discussing today's topics from an African American perspective, this is Another View.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Hamley. Before we get into our conversation today, just want to remind you that the Hampton Storytelling Festival is this weekend, starting on Friday the 19th from 2:30 to 4:30. Senior storytelling programming will be happening at the Immaculate Conception Catholic Church on Cunningham Drive in Hampton. And then that evening from 7 to 9, stories of humor, hope, honor, and home. And it's adults and to 8 years of age. First Baptist Church Hampton will be hosting that. Saturday the 20th, you've got four opportunities to hear various stories, and they're in various locations throughout the city. And then Sunday it all wraps up from 2 to 3:30 at Sacred Stories. And this will be from adults to children of 10 years of age or older. Hampton History Museum will be hosting that. You can find out all the information, all the different opportunities at hamptonstorytelling.art. hamptonstorytelling.art. So you've heard Jay Johnson and Sheila Arnold on our show several times. You know they are great storytellers, and there are many others who will be joining them. So go check it out, especially because it's going to be raining this weekend, and it'll be a nice thing to do. So there you go. August is Black Philanthropy Month. It's a time to focus on African American philanthropic giving. Each year, the Hampton Roads Community Foundation celebrates Black giving through education and engaging programming. This year, the focus is on support of historically Black colleges and universities, or HBCUs. So joining us to talk about it is Vivian Oden, Vice President of Diversity Inclusion with the Hampton Roads Community Foundation. Hey, Vivian, welcome back.
Thank you. Hello, how are you doing? Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So glad you're here. And Kandi Hall, a member of Visionaries for Change, which is a Black giving circle, and she's a proud graduate of Behold, Norfolk State University.
Behold.
How are you, Kandi?
I am great, Barbara. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So before we get into what's happening this year in terms of Black Philanthropy Month, define philanthropy for me, Vivian, and what it means, especially for our community, and are Black people philanthropic?
So philanthropy, I like to say giving back. People hear the word philanthropy and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. They're not always familiar with that term. And so philanthropy is not just giving money. People think about, well, I'm not a philanthropist. I don't have $10,000, $20,000 to give. But you can be a philanthropist giving $1. So philanthropy, you can give your money, your treasures. You can also volunteer your time on a nonprofit board, volunteer your time in the community, give pro bono services. If you are an attorney, if you are an accountant, you can provide those services to nonprofit organizations. It's really about giving back. I think about myself growing up, being a philanthropist as a child. I would have never thought that I was a philanthropist at the time, but seeing my mom and my dad and them giving in the church. That's where philanthropy all started out for me.
I think for every Black family, just about.
Right. Giving in the church or going to church on Sunday.
That's right.
And so seeing that, but we also had a Girl Scout troop at the church. And so I was a brownie and then a junior. And so I remember getting those badges, going out, serving. I'm competitive, so I wanted my badge. And so, it really started for me at a young age. And then as I got older, went off to high school, was part of the Key Club. I was part of a group called SODA that really helped kids with the self-esteem, character. So I would go back to the middle school and teach them, and we will teach them about building character and respect. And then moving on to college, being a part of Circle K International, which is part of Key Club, Kiwanis. So volunteering has been part of what I do, even to today, being on a nonprofit board, going to tutor at local Norfolk public school, helping a child each week, going in, helping with sight words, reading, and different things like that. So philanthropy spans just can be giving back. You can even tell your testimony. If a nonprofit has really made some life-changing things happen for you in your life, that's
share
also,
that with everybody.
You can share that and encourage someone else. That's also philanthropy. So philanthropy, and it's not the same for every Black person. We do things differently. And so philanthropy is all about what it means to you to give back.
To give back to the community. Kandi, how did you get involved in being a philanthropist?
I think that Vivian hit the nail on the head when she said, number one, our giving is rooted in many cases in our faith. And I'll never forget that when I first started giving, I literally was making $5.75 an hour. And I said, God, for every hour that I work, I will give you 58 cents.
Wow.
And for
your
me,
10%.
That was my 10%. And I was like, you know what? And as you give me more, then I will give more. And I find that in our community, that is sort of the basis, our springboard, if you will, for our approach to giving. But through the years, to Vivian's point, different organizations. I remember when Vivian first reached out to me and shared with me the details around Visionaries for Change. I didn't know that an organization like this had existed, but I was very much so. The way that they give and the need that the organization seeks to satisfy aligned with what my husband and I found as values for our community. So we were like, we're more than happy to participate. So that's really sort of my story of giving, again, starting early and young. And then being that was rooted in who I am and who I was. And I married an amazing man who has the same attitude about giving. We've been able to continue it through the years.
So we're going to talk more in detail about Visionaries for Change in just a minute.
Sure.
But I'm curious as to why, and either one of you can answer this, then where does this perception come that is unfortunately pervasive in the fundraising community, if you will, that Black people are not givers, not big givers, or they're not worth the time to cultivate to become a larger giver for an organization and so forth. Where did that come from?
I think a lot of it is that many fundraisers may not have the connections in the Black community. So because they don't have those connections, they might make an assumption about giving. I think it's rooted historically, just that assuming that Black people don't have the money, Black people don't give. A lot of Black people give silently. And so because
I was going to ask you, aren't we silent givers?
Yeah, because their name is not posted everywhere on a building, then someone might not know that person is a giver because they don't see their name or because they don't have that connection. And I think it's important to make the connection, build relationships, go where Black people are, sororities, fraternities. I mean, if you think about the history of our giving throughout church, I think it's important to seek out and find ways to engage the Black community and recognizing that all Black people don't give the same way. I think it's having those conversations, cultivating those relationships asking the question, what do you want to support? What do you want to give to? I think so it's really about going out there, doing your research, and actually seeking out Black people to engage and support, because especially, I know we're going to talk a little bit more about Visionaries for Change, but many of the members, some of the members that we have now, I did not know them initially, but it was out there making connections, networking, and doing the work. And I think that's important to do that.
And I want to ask you this, Vivian, because you work for an organization that, while you're the Director of Equity and Inclusion, it is a predominantly white organization. Is it difficult for African American fundraisers to get across that point to their organization that the Black community is a viable option in terms of collecting funds, in terms of getting people to help support?
I think that many times the organization probably wants to make those connections. They probably want to engage, whether it's the Black community, Hispanic community, Asian community. But I think a lot of times maybe the fundraiser there might not have those relationships. Yeah. And so it makes it difficult for them to go out there and engage. And so I think it's important you have to do the work, just like you would cultivate anyone else. You have to be able to cultivate. You have to, however you make connections now of any potential or potential donor, you need to do that the same way with the Black community. And I think that's really important. It's about connections. It's about building relationships. It's about listening and asking questions. And I think that organizations want to do that. They might not know how.
Yeah. Kandi, did you want to throw in?
Yeah. So I'll offer, it's funny because, and I'm going to answer both your questions, hopefully at the same time. I remember the first time I was labeled a philanthropist was from Visionaries for Change. I received a card at the end of the year saying, thank you, Micah and Kandi Hall, for being philanthropists. And I was like, philanthropist? Who is that? And I think by and large, and if you have time, there's a report on Hampton Roads Community Foundation's website called
Giving Black Hampton
Report.
Roads.
I think by and large, when we think about philanthropy, it's such a big word that seems to carry so much weight that is often attributed to billionaires.
Right. You always you immediately think 100,000 and above.
Exactly. And I'm not a billionaire. I pray the Lord bless me to get there sooner rather than later, Lord. But I think to Vivian's point, as a community, we have always been givers, and the opportunity to band together to give makes a huge difference, right? So, and I think that is what most of the organizations that are doing a pretty good job of cultivating Black givers have sort of tapped into. Number one, understanding that by and large we are givers, and then being able to communicate, to her point, and engage those givers as a collective to make an impact in the community.
Okay, so the theme this year. I will get back to Visionaries because I really want to talk about that too. But the theme this year for Black Philanthropy Month is supporting HBCUs, right? And so, audience, I want to send out the numbers right now, 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. I would love to know if you give, if you're an HBCU grad in particular, but if you are a grad of any school, do you give to your organization? And if you do, why? Please give us a call, 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. So, Kandi, you are a graduate of Norfolk State.
I am.
Do you support Norfolk State? Are
I do.
A Norfolk State grad?
I do.
Supporter? Why?
Oh, wow. That's a story. Where do you want me to start? So I support Norfolk State, and I'll also throw in that my husband and I support Virginia State as well. He's a Virginia State grad, so we, are avid supporters of both universities, both HBCUs. I think the key takeaway is that our HBCUs are almost like an engine for our community in many ways. And I'll tell you from my perspective, I'll never forget as a young Black woman growing up in low-income housing in Chesapeake, Virginia, I'll never forget that Norfolk State once held what was called the Brambleton Community Center Outreach Program every year, every summer. And the university would bus students in from all over the area for full day camps that included lessons in swimming and everything else that we were not getting in your own community. In our own communities. So that was my first encounter. But then I'm also very much so blessed in that all of my, both of my aunts, my uncle, and my mother attended and graduated from Norfolk State University. And so from that perspective, it's almost generational. In fact, it is generational in that sense. So we continue to give. And, you know, when you think about what Norfolk State has done here in Hampton Roads and what Virginia State has done in the Petersburg area, it really has been sort of a center, if you will. And when I say center, very much so a center for education and growth and development in our community, but also for the community itself.
So the research that I did said Black alum overall support HBCUs at a rate of about 10%, which is higher than the national average, which is about 8%. Now, my alma mater, Bennett College.
Okay.
Spelman College, Claflin College or University rather, in South Carolina, and Tuskegee, among other schools, they have what they call super givers because their alumni base give back at 25% or higher than that. So, kudos, Bennett College. Let me hear from you. But Vivian, why the focus on HBCUs this time?
So you talked about people giving to HBCUs, alum, but historically HBCUs have been underfunded. Even with having 50% of Black teachers that graduated, 70% of Black doctors and dentists, and 80% of Black lawyers, they not just have a great benefit to the Black community, but the great benefit to the community at large. And because of that underfunding, that they haven't received like other universities and institutions, people might not see the benefit of them. And so I think it's important to understand that history, why we even have HBCUs, and then also talk about the benefits of HBCU and what they bring to the community, what they bring to the students, and their long history. I mean, they're doing just great work, and it's really also for the foundation to just continue our commitment to racial equity and make sure that we bring that experience. This year, to me, it's going to be really a celebration. You know, I really want to, minus a step show, I really want to bring the
I'm sure that you could get some steppers around here to come in and entertain if you want them to.
Right. But I really want people to really see the benefit. And then I want people to really look at supporting them long term. How do we support their sustainability? Because they bring so much. I even think about student loans, and I think about the racial wealth gap. And I think about, you know, home ownership is so huge for closing that gap, but how can you purchase a home if you're trying to pay off your student loans? And so I think it's not just supporting the HBCU, but it's thinking about supporting the students through scholarships, supporting them through once they graduate and have an employment and having those student loans paid off and gone. I think about Robert Smith when he paid off the student loans for
Morehouse, yes.
College. Even there was a new organization that I learned about called Cash In, Cash Out Foundation that came out of Something in the Water with Pharrell Williams. There was a student debt panel, and all the students that were on that panel for real, and something in the water paid off their student loan debt. So then those students created a foundation. So
that
now
they could give back.
They are looking at ways to pay off student loan debt for HBCU grads, and then also supporting them postgraduate as they're looking at their futures. So I just think that the benefit to really hearing about HBCUs, and if some people might not even know what a HBCU is. They hear the term, they might not even know. And so I think it's really about education, people, and then really being able to bring in that support. I know recently we've had a lot of celebrities and entertainers support more of HBCUs. What Mackenzie Scott did a lot of funding to Norfolk State, Virginia State. But I think really for the community at large to understand the benefits of HBCUs.
So tell us about the event that you guys are hosting on August 1st.
Yes. So the event August 1st, it will be at the Addicts Theater in Norfolk, and we're going to have a great panel. We're going to have two of the HBCU presidents, Norfolk State's president and then Virginia State's president. And then
did Kandi have anything to do with that?
Well, I'm actually on one of the advisory boards at Norfolk State.
Okay.
So yes, I'm there doing my volunteer work, being a philanthropist. But also, and some of you might remember growing up on the show A Different World.
Yes,
that was one of my shows. So we're going to have Dr. Don Lewis, who played the role of Jaleesa, also being a part of the conversation. And then it will be moderated by Devon Henry, who is the rector of Norfolk State's Board of Visitors. So it's free and it's open to the public. We just ask people register for the event.
And so they go to the Hampton Roads Community Foundation website to register?
Want them to go to Black Philanthropy Month 2024.eventbrite.com.
Okay, say it one more time.
Black Philanthropy Month 2024.eventbrite.com. And that's where they can register.
Okay, so they need to register ahead of time. Okay, but it is free and open to everyone. 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call. We would really love to hear from you if you give back to your institution, particularly if you are a graduate of an HBCU, which stands for Historically Black Colleges and Universities. We got a Facebook message. Nicole from Norfolk wants to know, are all donations tax deductible? And did the tax code have an impact, I guess, on giving, since a lot of people now just have that flat, what do you call it? The flat deduction that they can take.
Yeah, so if you're giving to a 501c3 charitable organization, it's tax exempt. Yes.
Okay, so it is tax
deductible.
Yeah. Okay. And then Kevin from Norfolk also wants to know, is it better to give to designate money to a particular department or just give to the university and let them decide?
Universities love unrestricted gifts. Even nonprofits love unrestricted gifts, so they're not tied to that purpose. So the university will probably prefer you give it to an unrestricted gift and not designate it.
Right. Unrestricted allows them then to do what the greatest need is.
Correct.
That they have going on. 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call to join our conversation. So what are some of the reasons that people, Kandi, would give back to their alma mater, particularly if it's an HBCU?
Yeah, I'll tell you that I think that the primary reason is because after you have left, after you've graduated, you want to be able to enable someone else to graduate after you. I'm pretty sure Vivian and Google can tell us the stats around funding and the need for funding for education in the Black community. But certainly if and when graduates, alum decide to give back to the university, they're more often than not doing it because they really want to empower and enable someone else to get their education.
There's a particular pride also.
Absolutely.
When you are a graduate of an HBCU. Can you talk a little bit about your experience, just in terms of that family? Lisa and I were talking. She's a Norfolk State grad too.
Behold.
Behold. Yeah, that was the first thing she said was behold. But the whole idea of community and family and that special feeling, because it really is a different thing. And people tell me, well, when we were talking about the show this morning, and Lisa was recounting her experience at Norfolk State versus her graduate experience at a predominantly white university, and the feeling was just night and day. So talk a little bit about what it meant for you.
So I'll start with, I think I mentioned earlier that my husband is a graduate of Virginia State. So Hail State, for those that are listening. And the rivalry in our house, the embracing of the experience that we each had at our two universities is an example of that pride, if you will. I will offer that in my time attending Norfolk State, and then even after going back for homecomings, for example, being able to have that immersion, that opportunity to connect, that opportunity to learn in an environment that you definitely feel like you can relate to in many ways, makes a difference. And so I think that kind of fosters that pride. And it doesn't matter whether or not I run into a bison or a rattler or, any other HBCU grad. I mean, you cannot tell an HBCU grad anything about their HBCU.
That's very true. I remember when my husband and I first got married, and I went to a reunion on his side of the family, and his family, they're either A&T grads, which is what he is, or Central grads in North Carolina. And but they all still loved each other.
Absolutely.
But they did talk junk.
Absolutely.
If you're just joining us, we're talking about African American philanthropy and support of HBCUs. Our guests are Vivian Oden, Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion with the Hampton Roads Community Foundation, and Kandi Hall, a philanthropist and proud graduate of Norfolk State University. 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Do you consider yourself a philanthropist? And if you do, give us a call and tell us why you give. 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. So tell me about Visionaries for Change. What is that and how did it come about?
Yes, Visionaries for Change, my baby.
Yes, that is your baby.
So back in 2018, when I spearheaded the first celebration of Black Philanthropy Month in Hampton Roads, we had a panel discussion. As you remember, Barbara, you were the moderator for that discussion. And so one of the panelists was Beleda Fullwood. She is a co-architect of Black Philanthropy Month. She also is a part of a giving circle in Charlotte of Black business and civic leaders. And so during that conversation, she talked about the impact that they were making in the Charlotte area. And so after the event, I just was talking to various people in the Black community just about the idea of a giving circle in this area. I actually had someone come up to me and was like, this would be, something great, Black people coming together. And so after talking through, we were founded in 2019 as part of our Black Philanthropy Month celebration that year. And it's really about Black business and civic leaders coming together, pooling their resources to give back to charitable causes in the Black community. It's coming together in a collective group. The money is in an endowment fund. And so in addition to giving back, it's also about education. So we have a Building Wealth series where we're talking about building wealth, even leaving a legacy, thinking about estate plans. I think about not just within the Black community, but overall, people are not prepared. They do not have estate plans. So how do we think about leaving our legacy? How do we think about generational wealth? What does that look like? So we have those conversations as well. And so now teaching people about endowment funds, many people don't understand that. And so beyond Visionaries, that fund is still going to be around to support charitable causes in the Black community. We currently have 106 members.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yes,
yes, we received a new member yesterday. So yes, 106 members, and our endowment fund is over $948,000. And we've been able to give out about $75,000 over the past 3 years to 10 Black serving nonprofits. And so it has really grown. And just to be able to see the impacts, people in the Black community being able to make decisions about where our money is able to go, but we're stronger together. So being able to have a larger impact with all of our resources pulled together. And so just being able to see just the change and just hearing people's stories and how Visionaries, I know Kandi talked about Visionaries, and she's been on the grant, she's served to help with grant making before. And so it's just really impactful to be able to see we'll be celebrating 5 years in about a month.
Oh, wow.
So just to be able to see over the years how it has grown and the impact that has made in the community.
Kandi, what was your experience? Did Vivian come to you? You know, what happened? How did she get you involved?
You know, I was it just a conversation?
Yeah, it was just a conversation. And I knew her, so.
Yeah. So Vivian and I we met like 15, 16, 17 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
And after she started after she and the Hampton Roads Community Foundation spearheaded this effort, she reached out and she explained to me, you know, what it was, what the mission, purpose, goals, visions of the organizations were. And she said, you should consider it. And I said, okay. You know, my husband and I have narrowed our giving to about 5 organizations, Visionaries of Change being one of them. And, you know, I asked her what the criteria was. It was super easy. You know, like it wasn't, you know, anything is involved that, you know, would be prohibitive or a barrier to participation. And I sent the money over and she said, okay. And then they began to include us. So from my perspective, the value of Visionaries for Change is not just for the community, but also for the participants or the members of Visionaries. So they host a lot of things for the community, but they also do things to engage us as members of Visionaries for Change that help us to grow, if that makes sense. So there has been a tremendous value for my husband and I, just not just giving in the community, which is very important to us, supporting causes that matter to us, but also for us as individuals. And if she wants to share some of those things, you know, I'll defer to her. But it's been amazing being a part of a group that has the same mindset and like-minded around, you know, helping our community.
Now, I'm sitting here looking at the two of you. You're both young women. So it's not like we're not talking about senior citizens here. We're talking about millennials and younger, right? I've heard people say, well, they don't have any money. They're still building their careers or they're still doing whatever. Is that true, Vivian? I mean, you have 109 members now, so.
106.
Oh, 106. Sorry.
Yeah,
okay,
you might give me 3 more. I'll take it with it. So
you'll have 3 more by end of day.
Yes, join.
Absolutely. Please join.
So you have to ask people. I mean, you can't make that assumption. Yes, people might be in their careers, but people are going to support what they want to support. They will go out there and buy the outfit if they want to buy the outfit. They're going to travel if they want to travel. So it's all about people, what they are passionate about and showing the benefit to them. I think it's important. And having those conversations. If you don't ask, you're not going to know. So for me, I have people say, Vivian, I'm just going to give to Visionaries because of you.
But that goes back to the whole idea of building relationship. That's really what philanthropy is about.
Yes.
It is about building relationship, you know. So clearly you're doing that, man.
Well, thank you. So yes, people just give, you know, they might not even participate in any of the activities, but they will send that check. They will send, do their online gift each year just to say, I'm doing this because I see the value in it, and I also see the importance of what it's doing for the community, but also because you asked me. Some people don't even ask me.
Yeah. So what does it take to become a member?
So to become a member, they can go online and pay online to be a member. There's different membership levels. We even wanted to engage more younger individuals. So we added a new level at $500 for young professionals.
Oh, wow.
So the people that are starting their careers, in their careers, it's a payment plan. Being able to, I remember having an event, we were having a young professionals event. And so we were thinking about ways to engage the young professionals. And so the young professionals committee that was working with me was like, okay, so we're going to have a Starbucks. So how much you pay for Starbucks each month, how much you pay for this each month. So if you translate it to this is what you're paying for this and that each month, then people can see and understand how much money it is for them. And so we thought it was very important to start bringing young professionals along. People use it as a networking opportunity as well. There's so many different people in visionaries, from a nonprofit leader to someone in the government. And so it's a wide
so they're
range.
Entrepreneurs, they're different, a wide variety of careers, professions, so forth.
Correct. A wide profession. So you'll meet different people, meet new people. And so there's different levels, 500 young professionals. We have the silver level for 1,000, 1,500 for couple, 3,000 for gold, and then 5,000 for platinum. And so those are the different levels. You're able to serve on a grant making committee. You're able to serve a membership and planning committee. You're able to come to educational events. And so there's a variety of things. I'm constantly I'm updating members on different activities that are coming up. You're also able to come to some of the foundation's internal events and things like that. So there's so many different things that and people are always making connections within Visionaries for Change. So,
Kandi, how did you guys decide then which organizations you're going to support? How does that happen?
It really comes down to alignment with our values. I think I've mentioned before that, our giving is rooted in our faith. And so when we thought about Visionaries for Change, to Vivian's point, the focus is for nonprofits, Black serving nonprofits. And I'm pretty sure the information is on the website, but when we reviewed it, we took a look and we said, okay, these are the causes that matter from an alignment, a values alignment perspective.
So do you guys give to the same organizations every year, or is there a time of the year where you kind of sit down and look at those who have asked for assistance? I'm trying to get to the sense of how Visionaries for Change decides where its money is going.
Right. So there's a grant making committee, and they are the ones deciding on the area. Okay. So we, the first year we supported mental health and racial trauma. Last year we supported STEM, and then this year we supported entrepreneurship and financial literacy. So the actual members decide. We do a survey to survey all the members, and then the committee narrows down to what the area of focus will be for that year. Grant making typically starts. We put out an RFP in the community, so it's open to nonprofits as long as they're Black serving, and then that's typically in January of each year. And so then we accept applications, and then there's a whole review site visit process as part of, and the grant making team, which goes beyond the committee. So members of Visionaries that maybe not want to serve on the committee because there's a lot of time and effort in there, but they want to make a decision on who the funds go to. They're also able to participate in the process, do site visits, review, and decide where the funds go to.
So since your focus this year is on HBCUs, would they become perhaps a beneficiary at some point?
Yeah, they could. I mean, it's, we want to make sure that our process is equitable too. And so we want to be able to allow, as long as you're Black serving, to open it up to the community. So yeah, I mean, HBCUs can apply as well, and whatever that focus area is, each year. Maybe it's education this coming year, know. So it varies based on what the committee, grant making team, and visionary members want to do.
So the event again is August the 1st, which is a Thursday.
Yes.
And it starts at 5:30?
5:30.
Yeah, 5:30 is the reception and 6:30 is the program. And I understand that I'm looking for my note here. There's a different address. Black Philanthropy 2024 at eventbrite.com. That's where you go to register, according to Michelle back there. Black Philanthropy 2024 at eventbrite.com. So be sure to sign up. These are wonderful events. They are well attended. I did have the pleasure of serving as an MC one year, and it was great because I remember asking, we had Bishop Kim Brown as one of the panelists, and I asked him, if we know that the Bible says that you are to tithe 10%, but if you give to another organization instead, is that still considered a tithe? And that just set the audience on fire. He was like, wait a minute.
Hold up. That's the church. What's going on?
Okay. So, Lynn from Chesapeake wants to know, how reliant are HBCUs on funding from alums when it comes to their survival? Do we have any idea? In other words, what's the we know the role of alumni in terms of giving back, but there are other forms of funding that they receive also. But without that alumni support, would that be a problem for their survival?
I think they rely heavily on alumni support. I don't know what the numbers are, but we can ask our panelists
yes,
August
absolutely.
1st at the event to determine what that looks like for Norfolk State and Virginia State. But I'm sure that they rely on their alum as well. So,
because according to NPR, HBCUs and historically have been underfunded by about $12 billion overall. And there's some people who think that they get state funding and so therefore they don't need anything else, but that's not the case at all. So how do you feel, or do you try to, Kandi, bring in other folks, other young African Americans that you know, in terms of the giving circle or in terms of just becoming a philanthropist? And are you having that conversation with your kids, even though I know they're still young, but a lot of times that's where things start. It's when you come in.
So yeah,
in childhood.
Absolutely, to both.
Okay.
First and foremost, my kids, because they still live in my house. I the same values that my parents, my mom in particular, and my family have impressed upon me around loving our neighbors as ourselves are the same things that I impress upon my kids. So what that means is, even when my children get allowances, when we give them allowances, or, if they earn money for doing small jobs or whatever the case may be, I always say to them, what's your budget? Right. So, and it always starts with giving first, and then saving and or investing, and then you can spend the rest.
Yeah.
And so, yes, my kids, yes, to my friends and to my personal and professional circles, absolutely. I'm always inviting others to go along on my journey, whatever that journey is, for health, for wealth, for giving, for helping others. Absolutely.
What kind of feedback do you get from about giving?
By and large, most people that and you said this earlier, and this really resonated with me. It really, I had a light bulb, and that is, when you were sharing with Vivian that sometimes, it's you asking.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. The individual.
The individual that's asking often leaves a strong impression on people giving. And so by and large, when we serve as advocates, when we serve as individuals willing to ask others to give, more often than not, the feedback is overwhelmingly positive. right? So if I ask, hey, could you give $25 for this race I'm participating in? More often than not, people
We'll say yes.
will say yes. And so to answer both of your questions, yes. For my children, I impress upon them giving, but also to those that are around me, I encourage them to do also.
So I would love to hear from each of you, because you give not only to Visionaries for Change, but you both are very philanthropic in your time as well as your treasure. But can you talk about an increase or a change that you've seen for an organization because you were giving? And then what did that do for you as an individual?
So
Vivian can start.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about it from volunteer and then also giving. So for me, I've been tutoring for 8-9 years. I don't know. I've been tutoring for so long. And so just every year I get a different student each year when I go into the classroom, and I'm there once a week. And I know when we first went we went through the training and everything, it's like, make sure you're there. They're going to want to see you. They want to see you. And so when you're going through it, you might not understand the impact. The child, might be difficult one time, and you're just like, really? Do they really enjoy that I'm coming? Do they really understand the benefit? But I remember about a year or two ago, at the end, the little girl, she looked at me and she's like, I'm really going to miss you. Like, are you coming back next year? And so just being able to walk away and see the impact that has made on that child's life, because sometimes they might not have a steady, outside of maybe their teacher, they might not have a steady adult in front of them. And so for me, that just confirms the importance of me being there, and makes me really feel good about that. And then the other thing about giving, so I give to several different organizations, and I serve on board, so I have a giving as well. And so one of the organizations I give to really focuses on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so that's near and dear to me, also because that's my role at the foundation. And so just seeing the impact that it makes with organizations that do a lot of training and things like that, and hearing from different organizations, we have people coming in and sharing their stories about, hey, I went through this training program as a child, and now I'm as a high school student, and now I'm older, and I'm giving back and seeing the impact that this particular organizations make. And so it really makes me see, when you give and you can see the impact that your giving is making, it really just makes you feel good. It really makes you feel like this was all worth it. And so I think giving back, it's just really important, and it's a really feel good moment.
What about you, Kandi?
So I see, to dovetail on what Vivian just said, I see giving as an investment. And whereas often when we make investments in things for ourselves, our return is expected to be some greater amount of whatever we gave. When we give of our time and our resources and our money to help other people, your return on investment then really is about seeing that person grow, seeing that person realize whatever their goals and their dreams are. So I often, to Vivian's point, see it as sowing a seed. Inspiring someone, sparking opportunity in them. And so to answer your question, when I think about that, the way I see it is, when I think about all the people that have invested in me over, the X number of years of my life, because we're not going to say how old I'm young, but all the people that took the time to do after school programs and send me to camps and invest in whatever it was that I was doing at any given time. And I hope when they look back and they say, I didn't immediately see, XYZ, but I see wherein my contribution helped you along your way.
Right.
That's what I'm looking for when I think about giving. I'm looking to say or see or hope or believe that what I'm doing every day is an investment towards advancing someone else along their path.
It really is about caring.
It really is.
It really is. When you were talking about people, when you were younger, I think about a mentor that I had. And I was just like, I really don't have time for this mentor today. But as time went on and I saw that how she was just taking the time with me. And then I look at me now and I see like, that's why I was a mentor. That's why I was that's why I'm tutoring. And so it really does. You might not understand it as a child at that young age, but then as you get older and you start thinking about how are you giving back to the community, it really does inspire you to, and that you're inspiring others as well.
We only got about 3 minutes left, but can you explain, just for those who may not know, what the Hampton Roads Community Foundation is?
So the Hampton Roads Community Foundation, we were started in 1950. We are the largest grant and scholarship provider in Southeastern Virginia. And so what that means is that we are able to support charitable causes and nonprofits. We give out scholarships to students going off to college. And so we've given out over $365 million in grants and scholarships since 1950. We also have our commitment to racial equity. And so this Black Philanthropy Month is our continued commitment to racial equity work. And so we are doing a lot of things in the community internally, looking at ourselves when it comes to racial equity, but then also community engagement and hearing from communities. You know, it's a community foundation. It's your foundation. And so that is how we really like to guide the work that we are doing out in the community. So
Visionaries for Change is a Black giving circle, but you also have other Black donors who have funds of their own, right?
Correct. So donors set up funds. We administer those funds through grants and scholarships. So funds can be a scholarship fund. So if you want to support your favorite HBCU, you can set up an endowment to do that, or it's a designated fund where it's designated to a specific cause, or organization. Field of interest is more for a particular cause, and then we have donor advised funds where you are able to advise on your fund throughout your lifetime. And then we have organizational funds with nonprofits that they set up their own fund to use for their own operations. And then we have unrestricted funds.
Which is the ones you really like, right?
Right. But we're able to do a lot of our grant making that I mentioned, the grants that we give out in the community. Okay,
2 minutes. Tell a final word to someone who may be thinking, you know what, maybe I really do need to give back.
Again, it's rooted in my faith. So I will reference a scripture that I hold dear to me. Give and it shall be given unto you. Pressed down, shaken together, and running over, shall men give unto your bosom. So if you're thinking about giving, get off the fence. Get off the fence and give to a cause that matters. Visionaries for Change, your favorite HBCU, because the more you give, the more it'll be returned to you.
Vivian?
Yes, I agree. I think about build to serve. So you're building your wealth to be able to serve and give back in the community. And so when you give, it comes back to you. And so I encourage you to go out there and give. Set up an endowment fund to support your favorite HBCU, a scholarship recipient. Give to your favorite nonprofit. Volunteer in the community, because you give out, it's going to come back to you.
Okay. And tell us one more time how people can be involved.
Yes, so you can come Thursday, August 1st to our Black Philanthropy Month celebration. This is our 7th annual. Please go online, register today. It's free and open to the public. You can register at blackphilanthropy2024.eventbrite.com.
There you go. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining me today to talk about philanthropy, to talk about our Black community and how we can give back and serve. So please, those of you who are out there, and you know what? If you want to give to a Black cause, you can. It doesn't matter what race you are. So there you go. Right?
Yes.
Oh, gosh. And we hope that we've inspired you, audience, to give back to your higher institution of learning, particularly if it's an HBCU or any other institution. Do me a favor and share this show with a friend. Go to anotherviewradio.org, or you could go to Spotify or any place that you go for your podcast listening pleasure, and share the show with others. Next week on Another View, we're going to be talking about mental health in the Black community with cardiologist Dr. Keith Newby. We know that he is our favorite cardiologist, and so join us then. Our theme music is an original composition created especially for Another View by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Jordan Christie is our audio engineer, and Dr. Barry Graham answered our phones. We want to say a very special hello and goodbye to Danielle Saunders, who is moving on in her career, but we will miss you and we love you, Danielle. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Stay safe, stay cool, and let's get together again next Thursday at noon for Another View.
Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, carrying out your charitable wishes forever, whether it's helping shelter animals, feeding the homeless, enhancing the arts, or supporting students. Learn more at leaveabequest.org.